All right, family. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome again to another Bible Studies Live, where we teach the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, the undiluted Word of God, Jesus Christ being the chief cornerstone. My name is Brother Moses. We are Israel, the Lord's vineyard. And we're back today again with another Bible Studies, titling Black History According to the Bible. This is part 2. Color. Last week we did part 1, genealogy. So now we come in with part 2. This is like a 4-part series that we are doing for the month of February, and they gave us a month that we can do, I guess, our little Black history. We came up in school, with they teaching us the so-called Black history, but little did we know, family, the history that they was teaching us, that's their history. It has nothing to do with us. That's their history. So we're going to go in the Bible and we're going to do some research. And we are going to, last week we did, the one that we did last week is the prominent nations, foremost Israel, the nation of Israel, and who they stem from, the 3 sons of Noah. We talked about the 3 sons of Noah and who the descendants, the prominent descendants were, according to the scriptures. And we talked about Ham being the father of the African race, more so the Egyptian, Libyan, the Canaanites. Then we talk about the Japhites, which are the Europeans, actually. That's the Bible referred to them as the Gentiles. And, some cases, the Gentiles are referred to as nations. But the Japhites, the Bible referred to them as Gentiles. Then we have the sons or the descendants of Shem, which Abraham stems from. And we see that Abraham, that's who fathered the Semitic people. And we see that we talked about the people who are there that is claiming to be the Semitic people. They're actually Japhites. They came from the descendants of Japheth. So we see clearly that the Japhites are not the Semitic people, but yet the people who are claiming to be Semitic, they're actually Japhetic people. They came from Japheth. So we're going to go into this one today, and we see that on the screen here it says Exploring the Israelites' Heritage, Part 2, Color. Let me see if this thing is. So, no. Okay. We're going to go into this one today. Okay, Part 2, Color. So let's first open up, as always, we always open up with the commandments, the family. These was commanded by God for us to keep, and we have to keep them, in spite of what the churches teaches us that we don't have to keep them. We have to keep these commandments, family. It was ordered or commanded by God, our Creator, for us to keep. So let's get in with it. We're actually going to start with the book of Exodus, chapter 20, and we're going to read from verse 1 on down. And it reads, And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God. I will visit the iniquities of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy strangers that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Family, we're going to go to the book of Revelation, the last chapter in it, which is chapter 22, and we're going to read from verse 13 down. Listen what it says. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. He said, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have rights to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without the cities are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. Now, family, we're going to go to the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, last chapter again. And we're going to do the last two verses, which is verses 13 and verses 14. So let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Family, as always, these are the laws we read when we come together to do a Bible study, a Bible lesson, or what have you. Family, these laws was commanded by God for us to keep, and they are not done away with. Don't let anyone try to convince you that you don't have to keep these laws. Anyone that is doing so, family, they are trying to rob you of your salvation. We always encourage the family, brothers and sisters, please don't allow anyone to steal your crown. With that being said, happy Sabbath, Shabbat Shalom, happy Shabbat. I hope everyone is doing good, and the majority of the world, I hope they are keeping the Shabbat or keeping the Lord's Sabbath or holy day. Well, we're going to start out with the Fair Use Act. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, which allowance is made for fair use for the purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research purposes. Family, the reason why we read these is because some of the contents, what we have, we do not own the rights to them, nor claim the rights to them. It's for educational purposes only, right? Black History According to the Bible, Part 2. And this today we're going to deal with color. Again, I said last week we deal with the genealogy, starting with the three sons of Noah and who their prominent descendants were, right? A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. This quote was quoted from Marcus Garvey, right? And that is such a fact. Because family, if you don't know who you are, you don't know what your purpose is. If you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. So this is a true fact and a true saying. We have this book called the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. I actually owns one. I own one of them. And when you turn to the word Ham in that same book, it states Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor. Progenitor family means the originator or father. He becomes the father of the dark races. But listen what it says after this. Not the Negroes. He became the father of the dark races, but not the Negroes. So one thing, I would like to state too. It's kind of crazy when you come to European people, they will separate them by the culture, the nations. Then same thing with the Africans. Same thing with the Mexicans, the Spanish people. They have Mexican, they have Puerto Ricans, they have Cubans, Guatemalans. They have different people. But when it comes to the dark race, the melanated people, you know what they do? They throw all of them into one basket. Every other nations are separated by nation except the colored people, what we call the colored people, the black race. They throw all of them in one basket. So, and that is a systematic takedown to know who the children of Israel are. So what they do, they clump all of them in one basket and they call them African American, the so-called African American, or they call all of them Africans. They don't separate them by nations. They don't separate them by their countries. They just call all of them Africans. But when it comes to the white people, they don't call them, hey, just Europeans. They call them by the state where they're from, the place where they're from, the origin. That is very something that we have to take in consideration, family. So in this Bible dictionary, when it talks about the son of Ham, which you know is one of Noah's son, it says they're the progenitor. He's the progenitor of the dark race, but not the Negroes, but who? But the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites. Those are his 4 sons. And we get the African races through this 4 children. But something very important that we have to see, not the Negroes. So who did the Negroes come from? This is what we're going to try to establish in this lesson. The Negroes did not come from Ham, even though some of the pastors and most of the world who want to keep the Israelites blind, they claim that they are Hamites. They came from Ham. That's because they don't want them to know who they are. And the funny thing is, all of the other nations, they know who the Israelites, the true Israelites are. But the so-called people that is in power, all of them work together to keep these people blinded, to keep them subjugated, to keep them under the radar, because they don't want them to know who they are. When you read Psalms 83, it will give you a rundown. We're telling you all of these nations that come together to get rid of the true people of that land. That land meaning Israel, Zion, Jerusalem, which we call Israel today. The true people of the land. Because the people who are in the land today, they are not the original people from that land. They are not the original descendants from that land. These people are Russians, Germanic people, Slavic people. They are Europeans. And they actually are referred to as the Gentiles. The Bible teaches us that Jerusalem will be trodden down by the Gentiles, not the Israelites, by the Gentiles until Christ returns. So, family, if the Bible tells us that Jerusalem will be trodden down by the Gentiles until Christ return, then who is in the land? Gentiles, family. I don't think this is complicated. The Gentiles are trodden down the land. They are the one living in the land, claiming to be the people of the land. And they're going to be there because it's prophetic. No matter what you do, you can't get them out because it's prophetic. They have to be there until the return of the Messiah. When the Messiah comes, then it's going to be a different story altogether because they're going to get burnt out of there. According to the scriptures. Let's go and run it down. We're going to be like in and out of the Old Testament because remember we are starting from the beginning, just like we did with the genealogy. You have to start at the origin. Now we have people that go to church today that the pastors is telling them the Old Testament is done away with, and all of that is part of this regime to keep the true people under the radar, to keep the true people from knowing who they are. So what did the pastors them tell them? Well, stay out of the Old Testament. That book is done away with. We don't have to read it. It's no good. No, you got to follow Jesus. You got to follow the New Testament. When family, we have so many prophecies in the Old Testament that has not yet been fulfilled. And in the book of Matthew, chapter 5, down to 17, Jesus said he did not come to destroy the law nor the prophets until all be fulfilled, family. So everything is not fulfilled yet. So if everything is not yet been fulfilled, then you cannot throw away the book because most of the thing in there is still yet to come to pass, family. Is yet to come to pass. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 42. And we're going to read from verse 3 to verse 8. So listen what it says. What I'm going to do, family, we're going to read from the NLT. We're going to switch back and forth from the NLT to the KJV. And always the reason why we use the NLT because it speaks simple English. It speaks the way that we speak. The KJV, it speaks in Old English. And truthfully, I have a lot of people that reads from the KJV and a lot of them say they don't understand it. Well, it's kind of complicated. I don't really understand it, even though they're reading it. So we're going to read from the NLT, and every now and then, we might switch back and forth to the KJV. All right, family? So Genesis chapter 42, and we're going to read from verse 3 to verse 8. Family, the scriptures is on the screen. You can take screenshot, and YouTube, you can rewind, forward, rewind as much as you want. All right? Genesis chapter 42, verse 3, it says, So Joseph, 10 brothers, 10 older brothers went down into Egypt to buy grain. But Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother Benjamin go with them for fear some harm might come to him. So Jacob's son arrived in Egypt along with others to buy food, for the famine was in Canaan as well. Since Joseph was governor of all Egypt and in charge of selling grains to all the people, it was to him that his brothers came. When they arrived, they bowed before him with their faces to the ground. Number one, family. This is after Joseph was sold into Egypt, and then a famine came on. Joseph was one of the prominent. He was actually second in command under Pharaoh because of the dream that he interpreted for Pharaoh. And Pharaoh gave him a signet ring. Pharaoh made him second in command. And he had his own regime, He had his own regime, actually under him, following him, taking orders from him. So when the famine came, the famine actually was nationwide. It went all the way into Canaan. So Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain because at this time, Egypt was one of the only place that had food. And the reason why they were the only nation that had food, it was because of the same Joseph that his brothers sold him. Because of his wisdom that God gave him, he was able to preserve food and grain in Egypt. Great minds. So when the brothers came, they bowed to him because at this time they did not even realize that they didn't even know Joseph was still alive because they sold Joseph to a Midianite, which is an Ishmaelite. And Ishmaelites people, they are traders. They go from place to place trading goods, right? And we know that this is one of the Arab nations. This is the Arab people, the Ishmaelites. Ishmael is what Abraham's first son, and from Ishmael is where the Arab nations came from. And more time they're referred to as Moors, because the Moors, they travel from place to place. Moors just mean black also, but they travel from place to place doing trading. So a group of them was passing by when Joseph brother them was plotting to, I guess, do away with him. And when they saw these guys coming by, they said, you know what? One of the brothers suggested, let's take him out and sell him to this man. And so they sold him to the Ishmaelite that was going down to Egypt to trade. So this Ishmaelite, they took him down into Egypt and sold him to one of the Pharaoh's guard. His name was Potiphar. So he was under Potiphar down in Egypt. So when his brothers them came, they bowed themselves to him because they didn't know that actually Joseph was still alive. So Joseph recognized his brother. This is verse 7. Joseph recognized his brother instantly, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. Where are you from? He demanded. From the land of Canaan, they replied. We have come to buy food. Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they didn't recognize him. Because at this time, Joseph went down there when he was 12 years old, and he grew up in Egypt from the age of 12. So we could just imagine that he grew up amongst the Egyptian. He looks now like the Egyptian because the Egyptian, they shave their head, they shave all their skin. So, and they put on, some of them just put on wigs, put on makeup. So he could have quite looked differently. That's why maybe his brothers them didn't recognize him. And then they wasn't even thinking of that because they sold him. They probably thought Joseph was already dead. So that's probably the last person on their mind. This is the color, the shade of Egypt. These are some pictures that we got. And even on the pyramid walls, they have artwork of these Egyptian people. And the thing is with family, with cultures always paint pictures of themselves. They always paint pictures of themselves. So when cultures are diminished, deceased, you, a lot of times, people, archaeologists and things, they find remnants of these people. So they have a depiction of who these people were. They find writings of them. They will find pictures. They will find potteries. They will find coins of these people that was living there. And that's how archaeologists does get a sync of what the people were like. In that country or that region or that town. So the Egyptians, all over the pyramids, they have pictures of themselves. And you see what? We know that the Egyptians, them were melanated people, black people family. Because remember, Mizraim is the father of the Egyptian. And Mizraim is one of Ham's son. Remember, Ham had 4 sons. One of them was Mizraim, and Mizraim is the father of the Egyptian people. So we know that they are black people, or what we call black people. They're melanated people. So we know the Egyptians, them were black. So we want you all to keep that in mind, family. Keep that in mind as we go through this lesson. The Egyptians were black, melanated people. Right? That's one of the reasons why they call them Kemet. Kemet means burnt skin or black or burnt. Let's go to Genesis 49. Let's go to chapter 49. And we're going to read verse 1, verse 2, and then we're going to skip and we're going to read verse 28 to verse 33. We're going to read about Jacob and his sons. Genesis 29, verse 1 and verse 2. And Jacob called together all his sons and said, gather around me. This is when, at this time, Jacob, what we're going to do, we're skipping some of the stories, family. We're fast forwarding. The reason why is for time's sake, because this lesson is going to be kind of lengthy, because I want to really explain what I'm saying and what I'm reading so the hearers can understand. So it's going to be kind of lengthy, so we're going to be fast forwarding through some of the stories, but I'm going to try to explain to you so you can know where the story is coming from. Okay, family? So this is, at this time, Jacob, remember Joseph, after his brothers then realized that it was him, and then he sent for his family to move into Egypt. Right? When they moved into Egypt, Pharaoh gave them the land of Goshen. That's a part of Egypt, the land of Goshen, and there is where they lived and they multiplied and grew large in numbers. Right? They lived in the land of Goshen. So at this time, this is Jacob on his dying bed. So he gathered all his sons around him so he can tell them what he have to tell them, his last words, right? So verse 1, it says, and Jacob called together all his sons and says, gather around me and I will tell you what will happen to each of you in the days to come. Come and listen, you sons of Jacob. Listen to Israel, your father. Remember, Jacob's name was changed from Jacob to Israel when he had the encounter with the angel, right? God changed his name from Jacob to Israel. That's why we call the descendants of him the Israelites. So we jump down to verse 28 and it says, these are the 12 tribes of Israel, meaning of Jacob. These are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father said as he told his sons goodbye. He blessed each one of them and appointed an appropriate message. Then Jacob instructed them, soon I will die and join my ancestors. Bury me with my father and grandfather in the cave in the field of Ephraim the Hittite. This is the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre in Canaan that Abraham bought from Ephraim the Hittite as a permanent burial site. There Abraham and his wife Sarah are buried. There Isaac and his wife Rebekah are buried. And there I buried Leah. It is the plot of land and the cave that my grandfather Abraham bought from the Hittites. When Jacob had finished his charge to his sons, he drew his feet up into the bed, he breathed his last, and joined his ancestors in death. So after Jacob told his sons them what will befall them in the days to come, in the near future, he passed away. And this happens a lot too, family. Sometimes, you have a loved one that is dying and they want to see a particular person. And you know that that person will stay alive. I don't know how this does happen. That person will stay alive until that particular person that they want to see comes and visit them, even if that person is actually living in another state, another country. That person will stay alive, and when that person come and visit them, guess what? That person will die after that person visit them. This happens many times. I've heard many stories about this happening. People dying and they want to see a particular person, and until that person gets there, that person was hanging on. So after Jacob, which is Israel, talk to his sons, tell them what's going to happen to them in the future, then he breathed his last and he gave up the ghost. Let's move forward. Let's see something. Let's go to Genesis chapter 50, and we're going to read from verse 1 to verse 11. Genesis chapter 50. Joseph drew himself on his father and wept over him and kissed him. That's after Jacob passed away. Then Joseph told the physicians who served him to embalm his father's body. So Jacob was embalmed. And as we go through this lesson, as I say, I'm going to speak as simple as possible so that the hearers can understand the lesson. So embalming, actually, if you do your research, they say embalming came from Egypt. And even today, family, that Egyptian practice is still being used up to this day, embalming the bodies. It's still being used today, embalming the dead. So the physicians embalms Jacob's body, The embalming process took the usual 40 days, and the Egyptian mourned his death for 70 days. When the period of mourning was over, Joseph approached Pharaoh's advisors and said, "Please do me this favor and speak to Pharaoh on my behalf. Tell him that my father made me swear an oath. He said to me, 'Listen, I am about to die. Take my body back to the land of Canaan and bury me in the tomb I prepared for myself. So please allow me to go to bury my father. After his burial, I will return without delay.'" Pharaoh agreed to Joseph's request. "Go and bury your father, as he made you promise," he said. So Joseph went to bury his father. He was accompanied by all of Pharaoh's officials, all the senior members of Pharaoh's household, and all the senior officers of Egypt. Joseph also took his entire household and his brothers and their household, but they left the little ones, the little children and flocks and herds in the land of Goshen. A great number of chariots and charioteers accompanied Joseph. When they arrived at the threshing floor of Atad, near the Jordan River, they held a very great and solemn memorial service with a 70 days period of mourning for Joseph's father. The local residents and Canaanites watched them mourning at the threshing floor of Atad. Then they renamed that place, which is near the Jordan, Abel Mizraim, for they said, "This is the place of deep mournings for these Egyptians." So, why I'm reading this, family? You notice that these other nations, they saw all of Joseph's family, all of them, everyone that was there, they saw them as what? Egyptians. So it have many instances in the Bible where the Israelites were mistaken for Egyptians, family. Remember what we read, I spoke of earlier. Remember the Van der Van Bible dictionary that I read, that the Egyptians, which was the descendants of Mizraim that came from Ham, they are melanated people. They are what we call black people. So if the Israelites were mistaken for Egyptians, it's impossible for the Israelites to be white people. That would be impossible for them to be white people. They all look alike, family. All of them are black melanated people. They got the same hue. They're melanated people, family. So the Israelites were mistaken for Egyptians. Egyptians are black people, what we call black people. They're melanated people. But today, we have the land full of people who call themselves the Jewish people, and they are white people. How is this possible? When did they turn from black to white? When did this change took place? Oh, I forgot. Oh, I remember. Oh, I forgot. Oh, I remember. In 1948, these people went into the land and claimed that the Jews are back. But the thing is, the Jews from that land, they left melanated and came back white. Are y'all seeing something wrong with this, family? How did they leave melanated and come back white? How did they leave so-called black people and come back so-called white people? Can you make that make sense? Remember, family, as we go through this lesson, the Egyptian people that came from Mizraim were black melanated people. All right? Keep that in mind, please. Let's go to the book of Exodus chapter 2. Exodus chapter 2, we're going to read from verse 1 to verse 9, and then we're going to read verse 16 to verse 19. Exodus 2, we're going to read from 1 to 9 and 16 to 19. This is the birth of Moses. Listen what it reads. About this time, a man and woman from the tribe of Levi got married. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She saw that he was a special baby and kept him hidden for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got a basket and made a papyrus reed, and waterproofed it with tar and pitch. She put the baby in the basket and laid it among the reeds along the banks of the Nile River. The baby's sister then stood at a distance watching to see what would happen to him. So Moses' mother, because remember at this time, the original Pharaoh that Joseph was dealing with, he died. At this time, Joseph, he died. The original Israelite them that went into the land, the forefathers, they passed away. So now these are the other descendants of these people. So when Moses was born, the new Pharaoh that came up, they said, man, these Israelite people that is living in the land of Goshen, these people are actually more in numbers than us. So we have to do something about these people, man, because if these people are in our land and these people are multiplying like cockroaches, these people will outnumber us. And if any of the nations come to war with us, these people might join with those nations and defeat us. So we have to do something about it. We have to get rid of these people. So you know what this man came up with? This Pharaoh came up with? We are going to unalive all of the men. Any baby that is born, unalive them. All of the men, children. When they're born, they told the midwife to unalive these baby men. But the female, they can keep them alive. This is for a reason, family. Why is this? If an Egyptian man go with an Israelite woman, listen, family. If an Egyptian man go with an Israelite woman, the children that descend from that woman will be Egyptians because the father is the one that carries the seed. The father plants the seed. So whatever the father is, that's what the child is. The child is determined by the father, not the mother. Again, the child is determined, the ethnicity of the child is determined by the father, not the mother. That's why Pharaoh wanted to get rid of the males, all of the male child. And he said, keep the women, the female, because the Egyptian men will now take these women to be their wives. And when they make children, then the children will become Egyptians. That is how they build up this system so they can unalive or they can get rid of us, the Israelites. Then they put them in slavery, hard bondage. For 400 years, they afflict them in the land of Egypt because they wanted to rid of these people. So when Moses' mother put him in the basket, because she hid him, why she hid him? Because they were unaliving the boy children. So she kept him hidden, and when she couldn't hide him anymore, she put him in the basket and pushed him down the Nile. And his sister Miriam was following alongside the Nile to see what's going to happen to him, her brother. This is verse 4 of Exodus chapter 2. The baby's sister then stood at a distance watching to see what will happen to him, her brother. Soon Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river, and her attendants walked along the riverbank. When the princess saw the basket along the reef, she sent her maid to get it for her. When the princess opened it, she saw the baby. The little boy was crying, and she felt sorry for him. This must be one of the Hebrews' children, she said. Then the babysitter approached the princess. Should I go and find one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? She asked. Who did this? Miriam, which is Moses' sister. Remember, she was following the basket as the basket was going down the riverbank. So when she saw that the princess found the child, her brother, she approached her and said, should I go and find one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby? That's smart, man. That is really smart. This is verse 8. Yes, do the princess reply. So the girl went and called the baby's mother, which is her mother. Take this baby and nurse him for me. The princess told the baby's mother, I will pay you for your help. So the woman took the baby home and nursed him. So Moses' mother came and got her child from Pharaoh's, oh my God, from Pharaoh's daughter, and raised her own child. So Moses actually raised up in his own home. But the mother did not tell him yet while she was raising him. She did not tell him at first, because remember, he was supposed to be hidden. Even though the princess knew that one of the Hebrews' child, she didn't have no children at that time. So she wanted to have a child, so that will be her son. That would be like she having a son. So imagine Moses rose up in the house of Pharaoh. Remember, Pharaoh wanted all the young Hebrew Israelites' children, the boys, to be unalive. And Moses raised up in Pharaoh's house, used to sit on Pharaoh's lap as his grandfather. And he didn't know that Moses was one of the Hebrew people. Moses raised up in his home. That's the power of the Almighty God. That's the power of the Almighty God. God had to preserve Moses for a reason. Just the same way that he preserved Joseph for a task. Joseph was preserved to keep the bloodline alive. That's why when the famine came, they had grains because of Joseph. So now is Moses' time, and the same thing is happening. God is preserving Moses because Moses have a job to do. So Pharaoh's daughter, the princess, told Moses' mother, raise this child and I'm going to pay you your wages for nursing him. Later, when the boy was old, his mother brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own son. The princess named him Moses, for she exclaimed, I lifted him out of the water. So Moses, the meaning of the name Moses is drawn from the water. That's what Moses means. Drawn from the water. So she named him Moses. So you hear what happened, family? Pharaoh's daughter adopted Moses as her own son. Let's jump down to verse 16. Now the priest of Midian had 6 daughters who came as usual to draw water and to fill the water trough for their father's flock. So at this time, remember what happened. I'm pretty sure everybody knows the story. Moses went out there. He saw one of the Egyptian was beating one of his people, which is the Israelite, because this time he already know that these people are his people, the Israelites. Even though he grew up in Pharaoh's home as Pharaoh's grandson, Pharaoh's daughter's son, he knew that these people out there that was in bondage was his people. So he saw one of the Egyptian was beating one of the Israelite, and Moses went and you know what happened? Moses probably hit him with a rock and end up unaliving the Egyptian man. So Moses buried him under the sun, under the sand. He buried him under the sand, but guess what? His Hebrew Israelite brothers, they saw what he did. So you know with our people, you can't let them see you do anything. If you let any one of your own people see you do anything, your secret is not a secret. Your secret is not a secret. You hear the song that Bob Marley sing? Bob Marley sing a song. It says what? Only your best friend know your secret and only them can reveal it. As long as your own people see you do anything, it is no longer a secret. So what happened? The next day, 2 of those guys that had the altercation when Moses unalived that Egyptian man, they had a dispute among themselves. So Moses went out and asked them, like, why y'all fighting amongst yourselves? You know what the guy said? Who are you to be judge over us? Are you going to unalive us as you did to the Egyptian? You hear what the man said? Are you going to kill us the same way you killed the Egyptians? Why would they say that? Because they knew and they saw when Moses unalived the Egyptian man. So Moses know that this thing is out, and as long as this thing is out, guess what? My life is in danger because I unalive an Egyptian. My life now is in danger. So that's when Moses left Egypt and he went towards Midian. So this is the story that we're talking about now. So follow me, family. I gave you the synopsis of what happened in Egypt with Moses and why he left. So now we come to Midian. So verse 16 it says, Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters who came as usual to draw water and fill the water troughs for their father's flock. But some other shepherds came and chased them away. So Moses jumped up and rescued the girls from the shepherds. Then he drew water for their flocks. So he had some shepherds there. These, what we call them today, bullies. We had some like them kids in school, they like to bully the other children. So they had some bullies there, and they was bullying the girls. So Moses was close by, and Moses saw what was happening. So what he did, he went to their rescue. And then he draw water for them so they can give their father's flock water. When the girls returned to Ruel, their father, he asked, "Why are you back so soon?" Listen what they said. "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds," they answered. "And then he drew water for us and watered our flocks." So family, remember, please follow me through this lesson. You heard what the girls told their father? They said, "An Egyptian rescued us." So they took Moses for an Egyptian. Remember, we said that the Egyptian people were melanated people. They are so-called black people. Because they are the descendants of Ham. Ham is the father of the dark race. So they're mistaking Moses for an Egyptian. If Moses was white, family, so-called white, what we call Europeans, if he was white, would him have been mistaken for an Egyptian? It's impossible, because the Egyptian people are not white people. They are black people. So Moses could not have been mistaken for an Egyptian if he was white. They said, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds, and he drew water for us to water our flocks." So this is Joseph we saw mistaken for an Egyptian family. We see Moses now is mistaken for an Egyptian. So we can come to the conclusion the Israelites were melanated, so-called black people. Let's move forward. Let's go to Exodus chapter 4. And we're going to read from verse 1 to verse 7. And it reads, "But Moses protests again. What if they won't believe me? So I'm going to give you a synopsis of this. So this is after now God sent the angels to Moses, because God has a job for him to do. God sent Moses back to Egypt by the way of the angels. He sent him back to Egypt. Remember, Moses encountered the burning bush. An angel was in the bush communing with Moses, because the angels are messengers, family. They are messengers that is sent forth from God to carry his messages out. So the angel told Moses, God has a job for you. You have to go back to Egypt to rescue those Israelites, your people, your family, out of there. Moses did not want to go at first. Moses tried to give all kind of excuse. "Oh, you know, I have a speech impediment. I can't talk proper, and all kind of excuse. The angel say, don't worry about that. We got all of that taken care of. The angel said, it's like, you think we're going to send you back to Egypt and we don't have a plan? We got all of that taken care of. Your brother Aaron is going to be your mouthpiece. Since you have a speech impediment, your brother Aaron is going to be your mouthpiece. Moses was trying his best. He knew what happened in Egypt. So he was trying his best not to go back to Egypt. That's the reason why he ran from Egypt. But don't worry, we got a job for you, and you have to do this job. It's the same way when Jonah had a job, and Jonah was going the opposite direction, and what happened to Jonah? If God sent you on a mission, you have to go on that mission. Otherwise, your life is not going to be right. He's going to turn your life upside down until you do what he tells you to do. But Moses protested again. What if they won't believe me? What if they won't listen to me? What if they say, the Lord never appeared to you? Then the Lord asked him, what is in your hands? He said, a shepherd's staff. Throw it down to the ground, the Lord told him. So Moses threw the staff down, and it turned into a snake, and Moses jumped back. Then the Lord told him, reach out and grab its tail. So Moses reached out and grabbed the tail of the serpent, and it turned back into the shepherd's staff in his hand. Perform these signs, the Lord told him. Then they will believe that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob really appeared to you. Then the Lord said to Moses, now put your hands inside of your cloak. So Moses put his hand inside of his cloak. And when he drew it out, again, his hand was white as snow with a severe skin disease. Now put your hand back in your cloak. And back in those days, even now, they call that leper, right? They call it leper. When you have, your hands turning white from the original color. If your skin is melanated and your hand is turning white, that is, skin disease they call leper, right? Now put your hands back in your cloak. And the Lord said so to Moses, and he put his hand back in his cloak again, and it took it out, and it was healthy as the rest of his body, meaning it turned back to its original color. It was black, because remember, him being mistaken for an Egyptian, we know that he was a melanated man. We know that he was a so-called black man. So if his hand turned white or leper, when he put it back in his cloak and took it out and it turned back again to its original skin, we know that it turned back black, family. His hands turned back black because Moses was a black man. Verse 8 of Exodus chapter 4. The Lord said to Moses, if they do not believe you, and you are not conceived by the first miraculous sign, they will be convinced by the second sign. So Moses' hand, that's the reason why I brought you here, turned white, like he have leper, And then when God tell him, the angel told him to put his hand back into his cloak, his hand turned back black. It turned back black, family, because Moses was a black man. So this is a picture I have here on the screen. Moses' hand became leprous like snow, right? So we see that the depiction here, his hand turned white, half his, his skin is black, and when the angel told him to put your hands back inside of your cloak, it turned back to his natural color. It turned back black. Let's go to the book of Judges. All of these people that I'm reading, family, they are the Israelites. They're the descendants of Jacob. Judges chapter 16. Let's go see another one of our powerful brothers, Samson. Samson. So I'm going to read from verse 13 to verse 19. I'm going to read from verse 13 to verse 19. Judges chapter 16, verse 13 to verse 19. Listen what it says. Then Delilah said, "You have been mocking me." So again, we skip some of the story meaning because for time's sake, family. Otherwise, this would be a real long lesson. So let me give you a synopsis. Samson, he was born to defeat the Philistines. And instead of he do exactly what God tell him, he go into mingling with them. So he was with this woman, Delilah, and Delilah was getting paid to reveal what Samson's strength, where his strength came from. So she kept asking him, "Why are you so strong? Where are you getting your powers from?" So she kept asking him over and over and over where he get his strength from, because he wanted to tell the people that was paying her, the Philistine officials that was paying her, so they can bound Samson. They wanted to be his kryptonite. So Delilah said, "You have been mocking me, or you have been making fun of me and telling me lies. Now tell me, how can you be tied up securely?" Samson replied, if you were to weave the 7 braids." Samson had dreadlocks, family. Let me click this. If you were to weave the 7 locks of my head like a web, that's how you will be able to overcome me. Which people are synonymous with dreadlocks, family? The so-called African American. We are the one that is synonymous with dreadlocks. White people, that's not something of their nationality. That's not of them. Dreadlocks is synonymous with black people. Now we see white people putting dreadlocks in their head, but that's not something that is synonymous to them. You know, they don't like us, but they always want to pattern us. They always want to patronize us. The things we wear, how we wear them, how we speak. Even though they don't like us, they always want to patronize us. So you see white people now with dreadlocks in the hair. That is not something that is to their culture. That's not part of their culture. That is from this so-called African American. That's their culture. So we see Samson was an Israelite. So we see that this is part of his culture, having dreadlocks. And she fastened it, this is Judges 16 and 14, and she fastened it with the pin and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awoke out of his sleep and went away with the pins of the beams and with the web. And she said unto him, how can thou say, thou love me, when thy heart is not with me? Thou hast mocked me these 3 times, and hast not told me wherein thy great strength lieth. So why was it so important for this woman Delilah to know where his strength is? Why was it so important to know that? That's because she was getting paid to tell the Philistines officials how they can subdue Samson. And it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death, that he told her his heart, and said unto her, they had come upon me no razor from my birth. My hair has never been cut. For I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak and be like the other men. So now Samson, knowing that this was forbidden, he was not supposed to do this. Remember, he was born for a purpose, to destroy the Philistines. But he went and tell this woman his secret of his strength. And it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with her words and urged him, so his soul was vexed unto death, then he told her his weakness. And when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, come up at once, for he has showed me all his heart. Then the Lord of the Philistine came up unto her, and brought the money in their hands. And she made him sleep on her knees. And she called for the men, and she caused him to be shaven of his 7 locks. And she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. So he went and poured out his heart, his secret, which he was not supposed to do, to this woman that was plotting against him all this time. And she called for the officials of the Philistines and tell them what his secret was. And that's how they got to take down Samson. That's how they got to him. But Samson had dreadlocks, family. If there was a movie on TV, this is a depiction of the movie that they gave you. They gave you the true depiction. Samson with the dreadlocks. That is something that is synonymous with this to the African, so-called African American people, family. This is not synonymous with white culture. This is not white culture. This is black culture. Let us go to Revelation chapter 1. So we see Joseph, we see Moses, we see Samson. Let's see Jesus. You know, I've heard a lot of preachers, you know, they would say all kind of things to twist the word, even though they understood or understand what the word is trying to convey, they will still twist it. Because they don't want it to say what it actually says. They don't want it to say that. Revelation chapter 1, we're going to read verse 9 to verse 19. Revelation 1, 9 to 19. And it reads, I, John, am your brother and your partner in suffering and in the God's kingdom and in the patience enduring to which Jesus called us. I was exiled to the island of Patmos for the preaching the word of God and for the testimony about Jesus. So the synopsis of this is, after the death of Christ, they began to persecute all of his followers, meaning his disciples. John was the last one. They tried to kill him, and it did not work. Why again? Because God preserved him. Why did God preserve him? Because he was the one that had to write the book of Revelation. So God had to preserve him in order for him to write the book of Revelation. All the rest of them was unalive. John was the last one because he had to write the end of the book. So that's the reason why he was preserved, family. So after they tried to kill him and they did not succeed, they cast him out into the land of Patmos, into exile, and left him there to serve out his last of his days. So on the Isle of Patmos, that's where he finished the book of Revelation. So listen what it says in verse 10. It was the Lord's day, and I was worshiping in the Spirit. Suddenly I heard behind me a loud voice like a trumpet blast. So this is another thing. You know, every time we do these lessons, we always learn on the way of learning. Because throughout scriptures, you're always learning. You know, we always use this saying. This Bible, this thing that we are dealing with, is like going to a university that you will never graduate from. Because every time you go into this book, you find something new. Every time you go down a road, down a path, you always see another road. We'll never graduate from this university. So we have a lot of pastors today that is teaching the congregation that the Lord's Day is Sunday. Again, we have a lot of so-called preachers in the churches that is teaching the congregation that the Lord's Day is Sunday, the first day of the week. Family, that's a lie from the pit of hell. That is not in the scriptures. You cannot find that nowhere in the Bible. And it's a lie again from the pit of hell. It's from the belly of Satan. All through the book, the Bible tells you the Sabbath is the Lord's day. That's the Lord's day, the Sabbath. And the Sabbath is not Sunday, the first day of the week. The Sabbath is the seventh day, which is Saturday. Saturday, the seventh day of the week. That is the Lord's day. That is the day that the Lord separated for himself. When God was creating the heavens and the earth, he rested on the seventh day, not the first day. The first day he was working. He rested on the seventh day. And that's the day that God bless, sanctify. Sanctify means to make holy or to set apart. He blessed, hallowed, and sanctified the seventh day. And that's the day that God kept for himself, family. And he calls us to join him on that day. That's the day he called us to join him, on that day, family. Not Sunday, the first day of the week. Again, that's a lie from the pit of hell. And these so-called teachers, pastors, reverends, deacons, that is in the churches, them, doctors, all the titles that they give themselves, that is in the churches, they are leading you to hell, family. They are leading you to hell. You go into church on the first day of the week, a day that God did not sanction, a day that God did not sanctify, a day that God did not hallow, and a day that God did not bless. You go in there to worship the so-called God on the first day of the week. You are not worshiping the God of this Bible. You are not worshiping the Creator. You are worshiping Satan, family, because Satan is the one that gave us this false Sabbath day. He's the one that gave it to us. And you know how God works? God works through man. Do you know how Satan works? Satan works through man. So Satan is the one that put it in man's head to make up this false worship day that they call Sunday, the first day of the week, to be the Lord's day. Satan is the one, the devil is the one that set man to do that. God never sanctioned that. So when you go to church on Sunday, the first day of the week, you are worshiping man. You are not worshiping the God. Because God sanctified, hallowed, bless the seventh day, not the first day. And this was instituted from creation. It did not start with Moses on Mount Sinai. It started from creation. So this have nothing to do with the Jews. They have nothing to do with the Israelites. God ordained his Sabbath to be holy, set apart, and bless from creation. It has nothing to do with Moses. Family, I always encourage y'all to do your due diligence. Read the Bible. You have it in your hands. You have it in your homes. Read the Bible. Don't go to the churches and sit down and just listen to the pastors and not read the Bible. There's nowhere in the scriptures that you can find that the first day of the week is the Lord's day. No way you can find that. But you can find all through the scriptures that the seventh day of the week is referred to as the Lord's day, the Lord's Sabbath. Stop following blind leaders, family. Stop following blind leaders. Verse 10 of Revelation chapter 1. It was the Lord's day, which is the Sabbath, which is the seventh day, which is Saturday, what we call Saturday. It was the Lord's day, and I was worshiping in the Spirit. Suddenly I heard behind me a loud voice like a trumpet blast. It said, "Write in a book everything you see and send it to the seven churches in the cities of Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea." And when I turned to see who was speaking to me, I saw 7 gold lampstands. And standing in the middle of the lampstands was someone like the Son of Man. He was wearing a long robe with a gold sash across his chest. His head and his hair was white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like flames of fire, and his feet were like polished bronze, refined in a furnace, and his voices thundered like mighty ocean waves. My family, question: what color is bronze? Is bronze white? Bronze is not white, family. Not only that, who got woolly hair? Isn't it the so-called black people, the so-called Negroes? Are they the ones synonymous with woolly hair? Bronze is not white, family. And I'm going to show you another part in this lesson concerning Jesus. Because many pastors go here and twist this to make it something totally different from what it is. He said, write, God said, write what the voice said, write what you see. So what is he seeing? He's seeing this person with woolly hair and bronze skin, family. If his foot is bronze, what color is his hand? What color is his face? Is it a different color? So our feet a different color from our hands and face? No, family. Bronze is not white. It is a shade of brown. That's what we call black. Verse 16. He had 7 stars in his right hand, and a sharp 2-edged sword came from his mouth. That's the word, family. And his face was like the sun, in all its brilliance. When I saw him, I fell at his feet as if I was dead. But he laid his right hand on me and said, don't be afraid. I am the first. I am the last. And I am the one living. I am the living one. I died, but look, I am alive forever and ever. So who is this family? Who is the one that died and was resurrected? Who is the one, the first and the last, the Alpha and the Omega? This is Jesus. This is the Christ. What color was his feet? His feet is like burnished brass. And the KJV said like it was burned in a furnace. You can't burn nothing, family, and it comes out white. You cannot burn nothing and it comes out white, family. Anything you burn is going to come out black. So this person that's saying that he is the first and the last, even the Alpha and the Omega, because that's what first and last is, he said he is the one that was dead. He said, but look, I am alive now, and I'm alive forever and ever. And I hold the key of death and the grave. This is none other than Jesus the Christ, family. Write down what you have seen. Both the things that are now happening and the things that will happen. So if he saw a man with burnished brass feet, I know that man's hand and that man's face was not white like paper. It had to be the same color, burnished brass. What color is the Messiah? What color is the first and the last? The so-called beginning and the end? He is a so-called black man. You know, family, when Jesus returned, when the Christ, the Messiah, returned, a lot of people, family, a lot of people will have a sad day. It will be a sad day when the Messiah returns. Because all the people is looking for this white man to come out of the sky, they have something else coming. They have another thing coming. They're looking for this white man to come out of the sky. And I wonder how many of the people will worship that black man that's going to come out the sky. Because the Bible tells you they're still going to try to curse him to his face. Because they're going to refuse to worship the king. But don't worry, because the Bible, same book that they don't believe in, he said all of these people are going to bow. It's either you bow or he's going to break your legs. You're going to bow. Everyone will bow. Bow or you will be bowed. Simple as that. Sheep's got woolly hair, family. Look at the screen. Sheep have woolly hair. Who got woolly hair? Who's synonymous with woolly hair? The so-called black people. They are the one got woolly hair. let's go and see another one of our forefathers. Let's go to Absalom. Absalom, which was one of David's son. Absalom, which one of David's sons. We're going to go in 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel chapter 14. And we're going to read from verse 1 to verse 13. 2 Samuel chapter 14, and we're going to read from verse 1 to verse 13. What we're going to do, actually, we're going to read out the whole chapter. Now down to 26, from 1 to 26. Listen what it says. Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, perceived that the king's heart was towards Absalom. And Joab sent to Tekoa and fetched thence a wise woman, and said unto her, I pray thee, feign thyself to be a mourner, and put on now mourning apparel, and anoint not thyself with oil, but be as a woman that had a long time mourning for the dead, and come to the king, and speak on this matter unto him. So Joab put the words in her mouth. And when the woman of Tekoa spake to the king, she fell on her face to the ground, and did obeisance, and said, Help, O king. And the king said to her, What aileth thee? And she answered, I am indeed a widowed woman, and my husband is unalive. And thy handmaid had 2 sons, and the two strove together in the field, and there was none to part them. But one of them smote the other and slew him. And behold, the whole family is risen against thine handmaid. And they said, Deliver him that smote his brother, that he may unalive him. For the life of his brother whom he slew. And we will destroy the heir also. And so they shall quench thy coal which is left, and shall not leave to my husband neither name nor remainder upon the earth. And the king said unto the woman, Go to thy house, and I will give charge concerning thee. And the woman of Tekoa said unto the king, My lord, O king, the iniquity be on me and on my father's house, and the king and his throne be guiltless. And the king said, Whosoever said aught unto thee, bring him to me, and he shall not touch thee any more. Then said she, I pray thee, let the king remember the Lord thy God, that thou wouldest not suffer the revenger of blood to destroy any more, lest they destroy my son. And he said, As the Lord liveth, there shall not be one hair on thy son to fall to the earth. Let's carry on. Please allow me, this is verse 12. Please allow me to ask one more thing of my lord, the king, she said. Go ahead and speak, he responded. She replied, why don't you do as much as the people of God as you have promised to do for me? You have convinced yourself in making this decision because you have refused to bring home your own banished son. I don't know if you all know what happened, but one of David's son, he raped his sister, and the other brother unalived him for doing this. Absalom unalived his brother for raping his sister. So when Absalom did that, now Absalom became now a fugitive. Joab, one of David's servant, he wanted to, for some reason, unalive Joab, and he eventually did it. Even though David told them, bring my son back to me alive. Bring my son back to me alive. But some reason Joab took this on his own and unalived David's son. So this is verse 14, 2 Samuel 14 and 14. All of us must die eventually. Our lives are like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. But God does not just sweep life away. Instead, he devises ways to bring us back when we have been separated from him. I have come to plead with my lord the king, because people had threatened me. I said to myself, perhaps the king will listen to me and rescue us from those who could cut us off from the inheritance God has given us. Yes, my lord, the king, the king will give us peace again, peace of mind again. I know that you are like an angel of God in discerning good from evil. May the Lord your God be with you. I must know one thing, the king replied, and tell me the truth. Yes, my lord, the king, she replied. Did Joab put you up to this? So we know from when we start reading, we know that Joab is the one that went to this woman and told that woman to do this. Go to the king, like your husband was unalive and you was in mourning, you know. Joab is the one that put her up to it. So now the king is asking, David is asking, tell me one thing and tell me the truth. Did Joab put you up to this? And the woman replied, my lord, the king, how can I deny it? Nobody can hide anything from you. Yes, Joab sent me and told me what to do and what to say. He did it to place the matter before you in a different light. But you are as wise as the angel of God, and you understand everything that happened among us. So the king sent for Joab and told him, all right, Go and bring back the young man Absalom. Joab bowed with his face to the ground in deep respect and said, At last I know that I have gained your approval, my lord, the king, for you have granted me this request. So, because Absalom did this, unalive his brother for raping the sister, and he became a fugitive. Now, Joab wanted to go and get him because Joab wanted to unalive Absalom. So when he sent the woman with the story, is the same story of what happened with the sister, the two brothers, and him being a fugitive and not being coming to justice. It's the same story the woman went to David with because Joab put her up to it. So David said, okay, go and bring Absalom back. Go bring my son. Listen, verse 24. But the king gave this order: Absalom may go to his own house, but he must never come into my presence. So Absalom did not see the king. Now, Absalom was praised as the most handsome man in all of Israel. Man, you hear that? Absalom was praised as the most handsome man in all of Israel. He was flawless from his head to his foot. He cut his hair only once a year. And then only because it was so heavy. When he weighed it out, it became 5 pounds. So he only cut his hair once a year. And the reason why he cut it is because it becomes heavy. So when it comes heavy, he cut it. He said when they say the scripture says when he weighed out the hair that he cut, it becomes 5 pounds. He had 3 sons and 1 daughter. His daughter name was Tamar, and she was very beautiful. Absalom lived in Jerusalem for 2 years. Hold on there. For 2 years. So Absalom, let me show you something. My. You see like how this guy on the screen is, family? We know that the Rastaman them, they usually take their locks and wrap it like a crown, right? Wrap it in on the wrap it around the head like a crown. So Absalom here was long, real long. So he used to hold it on his head. So that's the reason I'm going to show y'all and give y'all another synopsis what happened to Absalom and the reason why it happened to him. So you look at this Rastaman on the screen and see how this Rastaman wrap his hair. And that's what most of the Rastaman them does wrap their hair when they got long hair. They put it up in a turban or in a tam or in a hat, in a stocking to get it because you know it will be dragging on the ground because they have long hair. So they usually wrap it like that, family, and put it up on the head. So we can just imagine Absalom. The book just read when he weigh out his hair, and the reason why he just cut his hair because it gets too heavy. So when he cut his hair, it says his hair weighs 5 pounds. That's a bag of sugar, a bag of flour. 5 pounds. That's heavy. Imagine you walking away with a bag of sugar on top of your head, or a bag of flour, 5 pound bag of flour on top of your head. So let's see what happened to Absalom. Let us go to 2 Samuel chapter 18. And we're going to read from verse 1 to verse 17. Second Samuel 18, we're going to read from verse 1 to verse 17. And it reads, David now mustered the men who were with him and appoint generals and captains to lead them. He sent the troop out in 3 groups, placing one group under Joab, one under Joab's brother Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, and the other under Ittai, the man from Gath. The king told his troops, I am going out with you. But his men objected strongly. You must not go, they urged. If we have to turn and run, and even if half of us die, it will make no difference to Absalom's troops. They will be looking only for you. You are worth 10,000 of us, and it's better that you stay here in the town and send help if we will need it. So David is formed 3 groups of men to go to get his son, Absalom. And he was going to go with them, but they urge him, tell him, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. You know what I mean? These people, Absalom soldiers, they're going to be looking for you. So I think it's best for you to just stay here in the town, and if we need help, we will send message, we will send word, and then you can send more men. But I don't think it's suffice or good for you to come. Just stay. We got this. This is verse 4 of 2 Samuel 18. If you think that's the best plan, I'll do it, the king answered. So he stood alongside the gate of the town as all the troops marched out in groups of hundreds and of thousands. And the king gave this command to Joab, Abishai, and Ittai. For my sake, deal gently with the young Absalom. And all of the troops heard the king gave this order to his commanders. So did David tell them to kill his son? No, he didn't tell them to kill his son. He said, deal gently, bring him back, because I need him back. Bring him back. But Joab had other plans. Joab had other plans. So the battle began in the forests of Ephraim, and the Israelite troops were beaten back by David's men. There was a great slaughter that day, and 20,000 men laid down their lives. The battle raged all across the countryside, and more men died because of the forests than they were killed by the sword. During the battle, Absalom happened to come. Listen what happened to Absalom. I want you all to keep listening. Listen what happened to Absalom. During the battle, Absalom happened to come upon some of David's men. He tried to escape on his mule, but as he rode beneath the thick branches of a great tree, my jeez, verse 9. Listen here. He tried to escape from on a mule, but because he rode under a thick branches, a tree with the thick branches, his hair got caught up in the tree, and his mule kept going and left him dangling in the air. So remember, family, that Absalom had long dreadlocks. Look at this man on the screen. Figure that this man, he got his hair rolled up like this, and he going under a tree, and the branch caught him in the hair, in his hair, and left him hanging inside of the tree. If Absalom was a white man with long blonde hair hanging down, could his hair have got caught up in the tree? Just picture it, family. Picture it. You don't even have to see it. Just picture it. What if this was a so-called white man? How they got their hair, come down on the side, like it's permed? Could a white man here get tangled up in a tree and leave him hanging in the tree from a tree branch? No, family. Absalom had dreadlocks. That's why his hair got hung up in the tree and left him there. And the mule or the donkey left him hanging there. One of David's men saw what had happened and told Joab, I saw Absalom dangling from a great tree. What? Joab demanded. You saw him there? Didn't you kill him? So you heard what Joab said? Remember what David said before they left? But listen what Joab said. So even though David gave them orders, Joab took matters into his own hands. David specifically told them about dealing with his son. Didn't you unalive him? I would have rewarded you with 10 pieces of silver and a hero's belt. So listen to what Joab is telling this man. I would not unalive the king's son for even 1,000 pieces of silver. So listen what this man replied to Joab. The reason why I'm saying unalive and this thing, because of, you got to be careful what you say on these platforms, because you don't want to be your video to be, flagged. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why I use the word unalive. Even the Bible said ill, you know what I mean? But I'm using the word unalive. Y'all know the story, read the story so y'all can see what it actually says. So I'm using these terms for not being flagged, family, okay? And if I had betrayed the king, so this man told Joab, I would not unalive the king's sons for even 1,000 pieces of silver. The man replied to Joab, we all heard the king say to you and to Abishai and to Ittai, for my sake, please spare the young Absalom. So you heard what the man said? Before we left, the king said to us, please spare Absalom. You can unalive his troops, but spare my son. But we always have one in the bunch. In every situation with the boss and they have workers under them, you always have one workers who want to do what they want to do. You always have a rogue worker, just like the police officers them that we have. They know what their job is. They're there to serve and protect, but they always have rogue officers who want to do what they want to do and want to take the law into their own hands. They don't like following orders. So they become rogue officers. Now they're no longer officers of the people. Now they're officers to the people. Now they're rogue officers. They want to do what they want to do, take the law into their hands like they are the law. So this man replied to Joab, you heard what David told us, spare Absalom. But Joab wanted to do what he wants to do. And that's one of the reasons when Solomon now took over the kingdom, David told Solomon, unalive him, unalive Joab. Don't allow him to live, unalive him. Because he thinks that he is greater than the king. My. Hold on them. I lost my where I was. Okay. So verse 12 again. I would not unalive the king's sons, even for 1,000 pieces of silver. The man replied to Joab, we all heard what the king said to you and to Abishai and to Ittai. For my sake, please spare young Absalom. And if I had betrayed the king by unaliving his son, and the king would certainly find out who did it, you yourself would be the first to abandon me. Isn't this a blimp? Even this the truth? Because that's how our people is. That's how our people are. They will coerce you or coax you to do something that you're not supposed to do, and they are the very one who's going to throw you under the bus. The very one who will throw you under the bus will be them. The one who coax you to do it. They will be the one throwing you under the bus. The Bible tells you there is nothing new under the sun, family. There is nothing new under the sun. There is nothing new under the sun. What is has already been. My. So this guy say, and if I had betrayed the king by unaliving his son, and the king would certainly find out who did it, you yourself would be the first to abandon me. And I believe that. Look what he told the woman to go to David and tell David, because he had his own agenda. Absalom cannot be trusted. Enough of this nonsense, Joab said. Then he took 3 daggers and plunged them into Absalom's heart as he dangled, still alive, in the great tree. So you heard what Joab did? Even though David told them not to unalive his son, you see what Joab did? He took 3 daggers and plunged them into Absalom's heart as he dangled alive from the tree. 10 of Joab's young armor bearer then surrounded Absalom and unalived him. Then Joab blew the ram's horn, and his men returned from chasing the army of Israel. Then they drew Absalom's body into a deep pit in the forest and piled a great heap of stone over it. And all Israel fled to their homes. So this is what our people is like also. We don't like rules. We don't like to follow orders. We always want to be God. We want to be the CEO, and we're not even good workers, but we want to be the CEO. We want to be in charge of everything and cannot be in charge of ourselves. So the reason why I brought you here, family, is to show that Absalom had dreadlocks also. That's why his hair got caught up in the thicket of the branch and left him there dangling. This thing is synonymous to our people, not so-called white people family. Let us go to the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 2, and we're going to read 17 and 18. Revelation chapter 2, we're going to read verse 17 and verse 18. And it reads, anyone with ears to hear must listen to the Spirit and understand what he is saying to the churches. To everyone who is victorious, I will give some of the manna that has been hidden away in heaven. And I will give to each one a whole white stone, and on the stone will be engraved a new name, and no one understands except the one who receives it. Write this letter to the angels of the church in Thyatira. This is the message from the Son of God. Who is this, family? This is Jesus the Christ. This is the message from the Son of God, whose eyes are like flames of fire, whose feet are like polished bronze. What color is his feet, family? Like polished bronze. When we read Revelation chapter 1, that as we read earlier, it says his feet is like polished bronze, like it was burned in a furnace, family. Look at the screen here. We got polished bronze. You see what color it is, family? Is that white? No, that's a shade of brown. We all are shades of brown. Some are darker hue and some are lighter hue. But look at this color. Is this like the so-called white people? No, family. No, it's not. So this is 2 different places that we went and we see the depiction of the hue that is that Christ is carrying. We see it in Revelation chapter 1. We see it in Revelation chapter 2. We see that Joseph was mistaken for an Egyptian. We know that the Egyptians, them are melanated, so-called black people, family. They're melanated black people. We see Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian. We see Christ the same. We see Samson with dreadlocks. Absalom also. That's because the Israelites, family, they are melanated people. The ancient Israelites are black people. Tell me, family, do you think that the people who are depicting themselves as the people of the land, do you think that they could have been, or white people could have been in hard slavery for over 400 years in Egypt? In this hot sun, do you know how hot the sun in Egypt is? You think that they could have been in hard bondage under the iron fists of Pharaoh for 400 years? These people would have been extinct. None of them would have came out of Egypt after the 400 years. They all would have been unalive right in Egypt. None of them would have came out. Slavery and how you see that they dealt with our people. Our people was melanated for that purpose, family, because our Creator already knew that we were going to be defiant. Our Creator already knew that we were going to disobey Him. Our Creator already knew that we were going to go into bondage. Our Creator already knew what we were going to be. He already knew that. Stiff-necked, hard-headed people. And He knew He was going to put us in slavery. He already knew this. He already knew this, family. White people cannot be in slavery for 400 years, in hard slavery, making bricks and stuff. All of them will be unalive. Skin cancer would have taken them out. They would have took them out. Because they're not built for this. This is the book of Songs of Solomon. Listen what it says, family. The book of Songs of Solomon. This book is known also as the Songs of Songs, and the Canticles. Authorship is ascribed to Solomon's. The story is of a deep, pure love between a man and a woman. Solomon writes of this beauty, of the beauty and sacredness of such devotion. The story symbolizes the great love of God for His people. So, the book of Songs of Solomon is not about Solomon, family. I hear a lot of preachers, a lot of teachers who is associating the book of Songs of Solomon to Solomon, meaning it's about him. It's not about him, family. It is not about him. The majority of the book of Songs of Solomon is about the same creator, Jesus Christ. The Bible is not for us, meaning it's not about us. It's about our creator. So all of the prophets, apostles, the psalmists, All of them is writing about the Creator. The Creator is talking or speaking through the mouth of these people. So sometimes it seems like it's talking about these people, but it's actually talking about the Creator. It's not about them. It's about the Creator. It's about Jesus the Christ, family. Let's go into Songs of Solomon and we're going to see something. And I want you all to follow me. Please follow me. We're going to go into Songs of Solomon, chapter 1. So I've heard a lot of, as I say, people who reads this and they will say, see, Solomon is black. But it's actually not talking about Solomon. It's not talking about Solomon. It is talking about Christ, family. And we're going to see that. Songs of Solomon, chapter 1, and we're going to read verse 4 to verse 6. Listen how it reads. Take me with you. Come, let's run. The king has brought me into his bedroom. How happy we are for you, O king. We praise your love even more than wine. How right are they to adore you? I am black, but beautiful. O woman of Jerusalem, dark as the tent of Kedar, dark as the curtains of Solomon's tent. So, do y'all see something? Did y'all just listen what I just read? Listen what it says again in verse 5. I am dark but beautiful. O woman of Jerusalem, dark as the tent of Kedar. Listen, dark as the curtains of Solomon. If this was Solomon's, why is it saying dark as the curtains of Solomon? Why is it not saying dark as my curtain? Why is not possessive? Why are the reader, the writer here is not saying, I am dark as my curtains? That is because it's not about the writer. It's about who it is for, or who is it talking about. It is talking about Christ. And it's saying Christ is dark as the curtains of Solomon, as the tents of Solomon. And as the Christ is saying through the mouth of Solomon that I am dark and beautiful. O you woman of Jerusalem. Who is the woman of Jerusalem? Israel. Israel is not just the woman is Israel, the nation of Israel. O you daughters of Jerusalem, dark as the tents of Kedar, dark as the curtains of Solomon's tent. So this is Christ saying that he is dark as the curtains of Solomon's tent. This is not Solomon saying, I'm dark as the curtains of Solomon's tent. That don't make no sense. No sense, family. And I'm going to show you that is talking about Jesus. And it's not talking about Solomon. I am dark as the curtains of Solomon's tent. If it was Solomon, he would say, I am dark as my curtains. This is someone else claiming to be the hue of someone else. Curtains. Don't steer at me because I am dark. The sun has darkened my skin. My brothers were angry with me. I want you to follow this, family. Listen what it's saying. My brothers was angry with me. They forced me to care for their vineyard. So I couldn't care for myself, my own vineyard. We're going to run this down and we're going to see that it's actually not talking about Solomon, it is talking about Jesus the Christ. Let us go into Psalm 69. Psalm 69. And we're going to read verse 6 to verse 9. Psalm 69, we're going to read from 6 to 9. Check this out. So again, in Songs of Solomon, it says, for my mother's children were angry with me, and they made me the keeper of vineyards, but my own vineyard I could not have kept. Right? This ain't got nothing to do with Solomon, man. Nothing. We're going to see who this is about. Psalm 69, verse 6 to verse 9. Don't let those who trust in you be ashamed because of me, O sovereign Lord of heaven's army. Don't let me cause them to be humiliated, O God of Israel. For I endure insults for your sake. Humiliation is written all over my face. So this person here, remember, the book of Psalms was written by David, the psalmist. And even this we're reading here, this is not David talking about himself. This is Christ talking through the mouth of David. This is Christ talking through the mouth of David. He said, don't let those who trust in you be ashamed because of me, O sovereign Lord of heaven's army. Don't let me cause them to be humiliated, O God of Israel. For I endure insults for your sake. Humiliation is written all over my face. Who endured the insult for God? Christ, because he's the one that came and was humiliated and put on that cross. Even my own brothers pretend they don't know me. Who is this? This is Christ's family. They rejected him. They treat me like a stranger. Passion of your house has consumed me. Passion for your house has consumed me, and the insult of those who insult you have fallen on me. So the Bible is telling you, Christ is talking through the mouth of David, and he's saying, the passion for your house, Father, has consumed me, and the insult of those who insult you have fallen on me. So those who disregard God, disregard his father, insult his father, now guess what? The son had to come and pay the price. Jesus had to come and pay the price. That's why he's saying, the passion for your house has consumed me, and the insults of those who insult you has fallen on me. Now I have to come and pay the price for these people. This has nothing to do with David, and Songs of Solomon had nothing to do with Solomon. This is talking about the same thing, what we just read in Songs of Solomon. Let us go to John chapter 1. And we're going to read verse 6 to verse 13. John chapter 1, verse 6 to verse 13. Remember, we read in Songs of Solomon, he said, my mother's children were angry with me. They rejected me. And the same thing we read in Psalms 69, where it says, they rejected me. So now we go to John chapter 1. We're going to read 6 to 13, and we're going to see it saying the same thing, family. God sent a man, John the Baptist, to tell about the light that everyone might believe because of his testimony. John himself was not the light. He was simply a witness to tell about that light. Who is that light, family? That light is Christ. Christ is that light. The one who is the true light, who gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. Who is this, family? This is Jesus the Christ. He was the light. John was sent to speak of this light that is to come, which is Jesus. He came, listen what it says, he came into the very world he created. Who created it? Jesus. He came into the very world that he created, but the world didn't recognize him. He came to his own people, and even they rejected him. Isn't this what we just read in Songs of Solomon and Psalm 69? This is the same thing we just read. His mother's children were angry with him. They rejected him. Who was his mother's children? Israel. They rejected him. They are the one that said, crucify him, crucify him. His own people. So we read it in the book of John. He said, he came into the very world that he created, but the world didn't recognize him. He came to his very own people, and even they rejected him. But all who believed in him and accepted him, he gave the rights to become children of God, children of his Father. They are reborn not with a physical birth resulting from human passion or pain, but the birth that comes from God. So Songs of Solomon, where he's saying that I am black but comely, that is talking about Jesus the Christ. The same one that says his mother's children were angry with him. They rejected him. When you read Psalm 69, it's saying the same thing. When we read John chapter 1, it's saying the same thing. Let us go to Romans 15. And we're going to see the same thing, family. Romans 15. And we're going to read verse 1 to verse 3. Remember we read in Psalms when it says, those that insult you, I have to come to pay the price. How they insult him? Because they worship pagan deities. They turn their backs on him. So that's an insult. That's a slap to the face. That's a kick to the gut. They reject him. Now Christ had to come to pay the price. He had to come and pay the price. This was not Solomon. This was not David. Romans 15 and verse 1. We who are strong must be considerate of those who are sensitive about things like this. We must not just please ourselves. We should help others to do what is right and build them up in the Lord. For even Christ did not please himself, as the scripture says. Listen what it says. As the scripture says, the insult of those who insult you, O God, has fallen on me. Isn't that what we read in Psalm 69? Family, isn't this what we just read in Psalm 69? The one who insults you, God, Father, I have to pay the price. So we're reading here in the book of Romans, chapter 15, verse 3. He said, for even Christ did not live to please himself, as the scripture says. Where did the scripture say this? In Psalm 69. The insult of those who insult you, O God, has fallen on me. I have to come and pay the price for them that rejected you. I have to pay the price. So was the Songs of Solomon talking about Solomon? No, it was talking about Jesus. Was David talking about himself? No, he was talking about Jesus. And we're reading here in the book of Romans, in John chapter 1, was John talking about himself? No, he was talking about Jesus. And in Romans chapter 15, is it talking about the disciples? No, it was talking about Jesus, the one who had to come and pay the price, the same one that says he is black and comely as the curtains of Solomon. This is Jesus. Let us go to Isaiah. The whole book testify of its own, family. It's like putting a puzzle together. You just have to find the pieces. You just have to find the pieces. Isaiah chapter 5. And we're going to read verse 1 to verse 7, and then we're going to read 13 and 14. Isaiah chapter 5, we're going to read 1 to 7, and then 13 and 14. Now I will sing for the one I love, the song about his vineyard. My beloved had a vineyard on a rich and fertile hill. Isn't that what we read in Songs of Solomon? About this vineyard? Who is this vineyard? Israel is the vineyard, the same one that is in Songs of Solomon. My beloved had a vineyard on a rich and fertile hill. He plowed the land, cleared its stones, and planted it with the best vines. In the middle, he built a tower, a watchtower. What is the watchtower that he built in the middle of his vine? That is his laws, family, his laws. Because the laws is what leads and guide them, just like a watchtower leads and guides the ships into the harbor. So the laws, his word, is what guides his people to him. Who is the harbor? Christ is the harbor. Who are the ships? We are the ships. What is the watchtower? That is his laws, his words. So his laws and his words lead the ship, which is us, to Christ's family, to Christ, which is the harbor. It is so simple. It is so simple. The watchtower is his laws. The ships is his people. And the harbor that the ships comes into is God. And the laws supposed to lead us to him, which is the watchtower supposed to lead us to him. He plowed the land, cleared the stone, and planted it with the best vines. In the middle, he built a watchtower and carved a winepress in the nearby rocks. Then he watched for a harvest of sweet grapes, but the grapes that grew were bitter. What is this bitterness? That is us turning away from him. That's us turning away from him and turning unto pagan gods, family. Now, you people of Jerusalem and Judah, you judge between me and my vineyard. What more could I have done for my vineyard that I have not done already? When I expected sweet grapes, why did my vineyard give me bitter grapes? So when he looked for us to come to him, we gone to pagan deities. We serving Satan. We serving the devil instead of serving God. Now you people of Jerusalem and Judah, you judge between me and my vineyard. What more could I have done for my vineyard that I have not done already? When I expected sweet grapes, why did my vineyard give me bitter grapes? Now let me tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will tear down the hedges and let it be destroyed. I will break down its walls and let the animals trample it. What is the hedges, family? The hedges is the angels that he put around us to protect us. He said he will tear it down, meaning he will remove them from us. He will take the walls down. That is our protection, which is the angels. And he will let us get trampled by animals. Who is the animals? The heathens, family. They are the animals. The heathens are the animals. I will make it a wild place where the vines are not pruned and the grounds is not hoed, a place overgrown with briars and thorns. I will command the clouds to drop no rain on it. The nation of Israel is the vineyard of the Lord of heaven's army. Do you hear that, family? The nation of Israel is the vineyard of the Lord of heaven's army. The people of Judah are his pleasant plant, his pleasant garden. He expected a crop of justice, but instead he found oppression. He expected to find righteousness, but instead he heard cries of violence. So us being bitter grapes or sour grapes, family, is us turning away from him. He expects to meet righteous people, which is the choicest vine that he planted. He planted the choice vine. But we become degenerate plants. We become degenerate. Verse 13. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 13. So my people will go into exile far away. because they do not know me. Those who are great and honored will starve, and the common people will be unalive of thirst. Did these people who are claiming to be the people of the land, did they go into exile? Were they scattered in the four corners of the earth? Were they transported in the bellies of ships, cargo ships, as livestock? As a matter of fact, you know what they call us? They call us livestock. I thought they were the ones supposed to be livestock. I thought they were the ones supposed to be transported across the seas. I thought they were the ones supposed to be exiled into the four corners of the earth. If the book is talking about them, why don't any of the prophecies match them? Why don't the prophecies match them if they are supposed to be the people of the book? Why do the prophecies match the so-called African Americans, the so-called West Indians, the people that were transported across the transatlantic sea? Why do these prophecies match them? They're the one that was in the bellies of these ships. As a matter of fact, the majority of these ships was owned by these people who call themselves the Israelites, who call themselves the Jews. The ship was owned by them. But how in God's green earth that they are the ones supposed to go into slavery, but yet they're owning the slave ships that is transporting other cargo? How are they the ones supposed to go into slavery? According to the Bible, if they are the one owning the ships that took cargoes across the transatlantic ocean. Can you make that make sense, family? Can you make that make sense? Isaiah 5 and 13. So my people will go into exile far away because they do not know me. Those who are great and honored will starve, and the common people will be unalive of thirst. The grave is licking its lips in anticipation. Did you hear that, family? The graves is licking its lips in anticipation, opening his mouth wide. The great and the lowly and all the drunken mobs will be swallowed up. So God revealed himself to Israel. He chose Israel. Why? Because Israel is his immediate people. His son came through Israel, specifically Judah. That's why Christ is referred to as the Lion of the tribe of Judah. So that's why he chose these people. That's why he gave them the mantle so they now can take it across the world. But instead of we do that, you know what we do? We go now and insert ourselves among the nations and following the customs of the nations, something that our Creator has always been warning us from. Don't follow the heathens because they're going to lead you away from me. Don't follow the heathens. But the very thing that he tells us not to do is the very thing we turn around and do, following the heathens. This is madness. So let us go back to Songs of Solomon, and we're going to read it from verse 4 to verse 6 in its entirety, and we're going to see that it's talking about Jesus. It is not talking about Solomon. It's talking about Jesus. Songs of Solomon, chapter 1. We're going to read verse 4 to verse 6. Take me with you. Come, let's run. The king has brought me into his bedroom. The king is Jesus, it's not Solomon. Jesus is that king. How happy are you? How happy are you, O king? We praise your love even more than wine. How right they are to adore you. I am dark, but beautiful, O daughters of Jerusalem. Jesus is the dark and beautiful one. The daughters of Jerusalem is the nation of Israel, dark as the tents of Kedar, dark as the curtains of Solomon's tent. So Jesus is the one that is saying that he is dark as the tents or the curtain of Solomon's tent. This is not Solomon saying that he is dark as his curtain. This is Jesus. Don't stare at me because I am dark. The sun has darkened my skin. My brothers were angry with me. They forced me to care for their vineyards, so I could not care for myself, my own vineyard. So Christ is the one that is saying his mother's children was angry with him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. He also says, the one who turned away from you, my Father, I am the one that now had to come and pay the price for these people. I had to come and pay the price. So we see, family, that Jesus is a melanated man. Jesus is a so-called black man. Jesus is not a white man. It's going to be a sad day when Jesus breaks those skies. A real sad day for a lot of people. Let us go to the book of Matthew. Matthew chapter 2. And we're going to read from verse 1 to verse 11. Matthew chapter 2. We're going to read from 1 to 11. Let's see what happened concerning Jesus when he was born. Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from the eastern land arrived in Jerusalem asking, "Where is the newborn king of the Jews? We saw his stars as it rose, and we have come to worship him." King Herod asked, deeply disturbed. When he heard this, as was everyone in Jerusalem, he called a meeting of the leading priests and teachers of the religious laws and asked, "Where is this Messiah supposed to be born?" "In Bethlehem in Judea," they said, "for this is what the prophets wrote. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, are not the least among the ruling cities of Judah, for a ruler will come from you, who will be the shepherd for my people Israel." This is what the prophets wrote. You can find that in the book of Micah. You can find it in the book of 2 Samuel 5. Then Herod called for a private meeting with the wise men. And he learned from them the time when the star first appeared. Then he told them, go to Bethlehem and search carefully for the child. And when you find him, come back and tell me so that I can go to worship him too. Now, family, you know Herod ain't trying to go worship no Jesus or no child. He wanted to go to unalive him. And God knew this. The angels knew this. After this interview, the wise men went their way, and the star that they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. It was ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. What was this star? This was an angel that guided them, family. This star was an angel that guided them. You know, on a Christmas tree, you know, it's crazy that some people would put an angel on top of the Christmas tree, and some people would put a star on the Christmas tree. Why is this? Because the Bible referred to stars as angels and angels as stars. The meanings are interchangeable. That's why some people put a star on the Christmas tree and some people put an angel on top of the Christmas tree. So this star that led them to where Christ was, that was an angel guiding them, that went before them. No star going before anyone, carrying anyone anywhere. This was an angel that went before them and lead them to where Christ was. Anyone look up in the sky and see any stars going anywhere? If you have, I would like you to message me so I can follow it, so I can see. An angel, which was referred to as a star, is the one that guided them to where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with his mother, Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Then they opened their treasures chest and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. This is another thing that you can learn on the way of learning something. I've heard a lot of preachers, teachers, pastors that say the three wise men that went to Jesus that took the gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. There's nowhere in the scripture that mentioned three wise men. Nowhere. You can't find that in the scripture nowhere. But the mass of the people, I guess because it was three different gifts, they figured it was three men. But the Bible never states it was three men. We know it was more than one because it says wise men. Right? So we knew that it was more than one. But it's nowhere that says there were three. The gifts that was given to the child, the gift that was brought to him, the gold is what they give to a king. The gold is fit for a king. The frankincense is myrrh, and myrrh is that's what you anoint a dead body with. So these people know the befallment of this child even before it happened. They know he was going to be a king, and they know that he was going to die for the nation. So the frankincense and myrrh, that's what they use to anoint a dead body. The gold is befitting for a king. All right? So I hope this was a blessing. That was the purpose of the gifts that these guys brought. Let's continue from verse 12. When it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by another route. For God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. So they did not go back towards Jerusalem where Herod was. They went another direction, another route. Because remember, Herod told them, find out where the child is and come and tell me so that I can go and worship him. But God knows best. He knew that that's not what Herod really wanted. Herod wanted to go and unalive the child because Herod was a tyrant. If Herod finds out that you want his throne, you will be unalive. He will unalive you. This man was a tyrant. So the angels told these men to go a different place, walk a different route. Don't go back to Jerusalem because Herod wanted to destroy the child, right? In verse 13, after the wise man was gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up. So this same angel is who appeared to these wise men that tell them to go the other way. Remember, there's nothing new under the sun, family. There is nothing new under the sun. The same angel is the one that appeared to these wise men and tell them not to go back in the way of Jerusalem. So the angel come to Joseph now and told Joseph in a dream, get up and flee into Egypt with the child and his mother. And the angel said, stay there until I tell you to return, because Herod is going to search for the child to unalive him. Family, answer me this. If Jesus was a white child, look at the screen, family, like this. Look at the screen. If Jesus was a white child, right, would the angel tell Joseph to take Jesus down into Egypt to hide from Herod? Come on, family, let's use common sense. Because as I always say on this platform, common sense is not so common. And we use common sense over here. We read and we use common sense. If Jesus was white, how could he have hid among black people, even Egyptians? Because the Egyptians were melanated people, so-called African American are black people. The Egyptians were black people. So there's no way that Christ could have hid among the Egyptians. So by the angels telling Joseph to take your family down in Egypt, it will be just another black family in Egypt. He will blend in among the people that is there because they're the same melanated people, family. They're the same color. So there's no way that Jesus could have been hiding among the Egyptians if he was white. No way. That don't make sense. Verse 14. That night, Joseph left for Egypt with the child and Mary, his mother. And they stayed there until Herod's death. This fulfilled what the Lord has spoken through the prophets. I called my son out of Egypt. I called my son out of Egypt. And if you read Hosea chapter 11, you can actually find this. Hosea 11 and 1. Herod was furious when he realized that the wise men had out with him, he sent soldiers to unalive all the boys in the around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under, based on the wise men report of the star when the star first appeared. So this is another thing, family. When the wise men then, when they went to visit Jesus, Jesus was not a child still, a newborn. He was already between 1 year old and 2 years. Jesus was not a newborn when the wise men then went to visit him. He was already at least 1.5 years old by the time that those wise men got to him. He was already approximately a year and a half old, a year and a half years old. So that's why Herod sent and told his soldiers to unalive all the children 2 years from 2 years and below. Figuring if he unalive all the males, Jesus will be amongst one of them. If he unalive all the males, Jesus most likely will be amongst one of them. My. Herod's brutal attack fulfilled what God had spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. Everything you read in the New Testament is taking you all the way back to the Old Testament. I don't know how pastors, teachers, leaders, so-called bishops in the churches can tell the people that the Old Testament is done away with, while the New Testament is always referring you back to the Old Testament. Even Jesus, when the guy came to Jesus and asked him, what must I do in order to inherit eternal life? And Jesus, you know what Jesus did? He said, what does the laws of Moses say? So he sent that man back to the laws of Moses. So why are the preachers them in the churches is teaching the people and telling them that the Old Testament is done away with and is no more. Beware of these wolves in sheep clothing, family. These people has not your best interest at heart. These people don't care nothing about you. All they care about is your pocketbook. That's all they care about. They don't care nothing about you. When Herod, so listen what it said, a cry was heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning. Rachel wept for her children, refusing to be comforted, for they are unalived. But they are unalived. You can find this in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 31. When Herod died, the angel of the Lord appeared in a dream. There go the angel again, to Joseph in Egypt. Get up, the angel said, take the child and his mother back to the land of Israel, because those who were trying to unalive the child are dead. So Joseph got up and returned to the land of Israel with Jesus and his mother. But when he learned that the new ruler of Judea was Herod's son, Archelaus, he was afraid to go there. Then, after being warned in a dream, he left for the region of Galilee. This angel is always coming to warn them, coming to guide them. Remember, family, there is nothing new. So Who is the comforter? Who is the one that will come to lead and to guide the people? The same angels, family. That is their job. That's their job. To lead the people, guide them, tell them about the future. These are the angels that come to bring these messages, because the angels are ministering spirits that is sent forth to ministers to the people who will be ears of God. Angels are ministering spirit. You can read that in the book of Hebrews chapter 1. So Joseph got up and returned to the land of Israel with Jesus and his mother. But when he learned that the new ruler of Judea was Herod's son Archelaus, he was afraid to go there. Then after being warned in a dream, he left for the region of Galilee. So the family went and lived in a town called Nazareth. This fulfilled what the prophet said: he will be called a Nazarene. Jesus is all over this book, family. All over the book. Let's go and see something with Paul. And remember, pedigrees comes from the male. Romans chapter 11. And we're going to read verse 1. I ask then, has God rejected his own people, the nation of Israel? Of course not. Myself am an Israelite, a descendant of Abraham, and a member of the tribe of Benjamin. So this is Paul's pedigree, right? This is Paul's pedigree. He says he is a descendant of the Israelites, and is the descendant of Abraham's, one of Abraham's children from the tribe of Benjamin. So we know that Paul was a Benjamite. He was an Israelite, right? Let's go to the book of Acts. Acts chapter 21. Remember, we just read that Paul is an Israelite. He's a Benjamite. Acts chapter 21. And we're going to read from 37 to verse 40. 37 to 40. This is Paul. Listen what Paul said. As Paul was about to be taken inside, he said to the commander, "May I have a word with you?" "Do you speak Greek?" the commander asked, surprised. "Aren't you the Egyptian who led a rebellion some time ago and took 4,000 members of the assassins out into the desert?" So this man, he mistaken Paul for an Egyptian. Family, what color are the Egyptians? The Egyptians are black people, so-called black people. They're melanated people. And Paul is from the tribe of Benjamin, and he's mistaken for an Egyptian, the black peoples. So we see, family, that Joseph was mistaken for an Egyptian, black. Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian. Then we have Samson with dreadlocks. We have Absalom with dreadlocks. We have Jesus that God sent down into Egypt to hide from Herod. How can Jesus hide in Egypt being a white man, a white child? Or Joseph being a white man? Or Mary being a white woman? How they could have hide in Egypt? These people would have stuck out like a sore thumb. As soon as they enter Egypt, everybody would have been looking at them. You saw the white child right here. You saw on the screen? Do you see how everybody's looking at him? That's the same way they would have been looking at Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. Man, what are these white people doing here? Are y'all lost? Is everything okay? But we know, family, they were melanated people. So Paul here is mistaken for an Egyptian. Aren't you the Egyptian who led the rebellion some time ago and took 4,000 members of the assassin into the desert? No, Paul replied, I am a Jew and a citizen of Tarshish in Cilicia, which is an important city. Please let me talk to these people. The commander agreed, so Paul stood on the stairs and motioned to the people to be quiet. Soon as a deep silence enveloped the crowd, and he addresses them in their own language, Aramaic. So Paul, he clearly said he is a Jew. He's a descendant of Abraham from the tribe of Benjamin, an Israelite. But we see that he is mistaken for an Egyptian. Make that make sense, family? What color are the Egyptians? They are melanated people. They are melanated. Let's go to John 1 and 18 and let's read something. John 1 and 18. Listen what it reads here. It said, no one has seen God. So who is this God that no one has seen? No one has seen the Father family. No one has ever seen the Father. But the unique one, who is himself God, is near to the Father's heart. He has revealed God to us. So the only way that we knew or know or find out about the Father is from his Son, Jesus the Christ. That's the only way that we know. Because when he came, he revealed his Father to us, to man. So who was the God of the Old Testament? Jesus is the God of the Old Testament. He is the one running around in the Old Testament. Jesus, because no one has ever seen the Father. That's why the Father is referred to as Spirit. Why is he referred to as Spirit? Because no one ever saw him. That's why he's referred to as Spirit. But is he a real spirit? No. Why? Why am I saying this? Doesn't he have a throne in heaven? Yes, he have a throne. Isn't Jesus in the image of him? Isn't we in the image of Jesus and his Father? So how can he be spirit? He has an image, family, because we are in his image. Jesus is in the image of his Father. So he has an image. So these pastors are running around talking about God is spirit. What madness are you telling the people? He has an image, and his Son is made in his image, and we are made in their image. What is the meaning of the word image? The meaning of the word image is the external representation of something or someone. Again, the meaning of the word image is the external representation of something or someone. So if Jesus is in the image of his Father, that means he has an image. And if we are in the image of the both of them, that means the Father has an image. But John 1 and 18, no one has ever seen God, but the only unique one who himself is God, Jesus, who is near to the Father, he is the one that revealed God to us. Jesus is the one that come and reveal his Father to us. Tell us what his Father is like, what he don't like, You know what I mean? So the Father has an image. So he's not a spirit that he's not seen, but we have never seen him. That's the reason why he's referred to as spirit. Let's go to John chapter 6, verse 44 to 46. John chapter 6, 34 to 46. And it reads, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draw them to me. And at the last day, I will raise them up." So who will raise up the man? Who will raise the dead? Jesus. Whose voice will they hear and rise? Jesus. Who brought Solomon out of the grave? Jesus. Lazarus. My bad. Who brought Lazarus from the grave? Jesus. He said, "Lazarus, come forth." So when the dead hear the voice of Christ, when he returned for the first resurrection, they will rise. They will rise. This is verse 45. As it is written in the scriptures, they will all be taught of God. Everyone who listens to the Father and learn from him who come to me. No one has ever seen the Father. Only I, who was sent from God, has seen him. You hear what the Bible says? No, you hear what Jesus said through the mouth of John? Not that anyone has seen the Father. No one has ever seen him. I, who is sent from God, have seen him. It's the same thing we read in John chapter 1. No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom or in the presence of the Father, he has declared him to us. So when we go to John chapter 6, it's not saying something different from family. It's saying the same thing. It's saying the same thing. No one has seen the Father at any time. So who is man been communicating with? Man have always been communicating with the Son, Jesus. That's who man has been communicating with. Let us go to 1 John chapter 4. Are we going to read verse 10 to verse 12? 1 John 4, 10 and 12. 10 to 12. And it reads, "This is real love, not that we love God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as a sacrifice to take away our sins. Dear friends, since God loved us that much, we surely ought to love each other. No one has ever seen God." So we keep reading the same thing over and over. We read it in John chapter 1. We read it in John chapter 6. Now we're in 1 John chapter 4, and we're still reading the same thing. No one has seen God, but if we love each other, God lives in us. And this love is brought to full expression in us. So this is 3 times, family. 3 times we have read that no one has seen God. No one has ever heard him. 3 times. Let us go to the book of Colossians, chapter 1. Colossians chapter 1, and we're going to read verse 3 to verse 15. We all pray for you. This is Colossians chapter 1, verse 3. We all pray for you. We give thanks to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. For we have heard of your faith in Christ Jesus and your love for all of God's people, which come from your confident hope of what God has revealed for you in heaven. You have his expectation ever since you first heard the truth of the good news. This same good news that came to you is going out all over the world. It is bearing fruit everywhere by changing lives, just as it changes your lives from the day you first heard and understood the truth about God's wonderful grace. You learn about the good news from Epaphras, our beloved co-worker. He is Christ's faithful servant, and he is helping us on your behalf. He has told us about the love for others that the Holy Spirit has given you. So we have not stopped praying for you since we first heard about you. We ask God to give you complete knowledge of his will and to give you the spiritual wisdom and understanding. Then the way you live will always honor and please the Lord, and your lives will produce every kind of good fruits. All the while, you will grow as you learn to know God's better and better. We also pray for you to be strengthened with all his glorious power, so you will have all the endurance and patience you need. May you be filled with joy, always thanking the Father as he enables you to share in the inheritance that belongs to his people who live in the light, for he has rescued us from the kingdom of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of his dear Son, who purchased our freedom and forgave our sins. Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. He existed before everything was created, and he is supreme over all creation. So, family, if Christ is the image of the invisible God, who is the invisible God? His Father. Why is he the invisible God? That's because we never saw him. So, of course, he is the invisible God. We never saw him. But Christ is in the image of the invisible God. And Christ existed before everything was created and is supreme over all creation. Why? Because Christ is the one that created all things. He was the creator. So of course he have to exist prior to creation because he's the one that created all things. It's just common sense. Let us go to Hebrews chapter 1. Hebrews chapter 1. And we're going to read from verse 1 to verse 3. And it reads, long ago God spoke many times and in many ways to our ancestors through the prophets. And now in these final days he has spoken to us through his Son. God promised everything to the Son as an inheritance, and through the Son he created the universe. The Son radiates God's own glory and expresses the very character of God. And he sustained everything by the mighty power of his command. When he had cleansed us from our sins, he sat down in the place of honor at the right hand of the majestic God in heaven. So the KJV reads in verse 3, who is being the brightness of his glory and the express image of his person. So again, he expresses the character of his father, and he is the image of his father. The reason why he's referred to as spirit is because we never saw him. God knew about Egypt before we knew about Egypt. What am I saying? The indigenous Egyptians of Egypt were melanated people, right? They were melanated people. And that land was overthrown. That country was overthrown. So now we have Arab nations in there, and most of them is Europeans, because so they are white. But God is smarter than man. Man think that they're smarter than God, but I'm here to tell you God is smarter than man. Ethiopia is one of the only country in Africa that was never colonized. Let me say it again. Ethiopia is one of the only country in Africa that was never colonized. All of the other countries are colonized. Ethiopia was none. So why was this? Let me show you all something. The people who are living in Egypt today, they're not melanated people. They're mostly Europeans. They're white, right? So look what God did. Look what the Almighty did. Because he know that, because he did not make or did not allow Ethiopia to be colonized. So he know that the people there are ancestors of the people who have always been there. So he know that these people will remain the black nation, the black people of that land, because they never been colonized by the white people. So look what God says concerning Israel. My Lord. We're going to read verse 6 and verse 7 in the book of Amos. Amos chapter 9, verse 6 and verse 7. Listen what it says. The Lord's home reaches up to the heavens, while its foundation is on the earth. Because he owns everything, family. He owns the world and everything that is in it. So his home reaches everywhere, even up to heaven, and his foundation is on the earth. He draws up the water from the ocean and pours it down as rain on the land. The Lord is his name. Are you Israelites more important to me than the Ethiopians? As the Lord, I have brought Israel's out of Egypt, but as also brought the Palestine from Crete and led the Arameans out of Ker. So listen what the KJV says. In verse 9, it says, are you not as the children of Ethiopia unto me, O children of Israel, saith the Lord? Why is he saying, are you not as the children of Ethiopia unto me? What color are the Ethiopians? Aren't they melanated people? They are melanated people. They are black people. Ethiopia is one of Ham's sons. Remember, Ham had 4 sons. Cush, which is the Ethiopian, Mizraim, which is the Egyptian, Phut, which is Libya, and the Canaanites, the original inhabitants of the land of Israel. So the Ethiopians are Cushites. They are black people. Their father is Ham. So God is saying, are you Israelites? Aren't you as the Ethiopian unto me? Because they're the same color people. He know that Ethiopia was not going to be colonized. So he have someone to refer his people to, meaning this is what they look like. Because he knew all through the book, he always been relating us to the ancient Israel, the ancient Egyptians. But he knew that Egypt was going to be colonized by the white man. So he can't keep relating us to the Egyptian, knowing that they're going to be colonized. The Ethiopians are melanated black people. Look at the Ethiopians here on the screen. What color are these people? They are black people, melanated people. This is the Zandervan Bible Dictionary. You know, in Acts chapter 13, verse 1, one of the disciples was referred to as Niger. Do you know what Niger means? Niger, the Latin nickname meaning black. You hear what it is? Is a nickname meaning black. Surname Simeon. Remember, in Acts chapter 13, verse 1, it says Simeon, the black man. This from here. One of the teachers, prophets of the earlier church in Antioch, blacks were a common sight among the population. You hear that, family? Blacks were the common sight among the population of Egypt and northern Africa in the Hellenistic period. Simeon's Latin nickname suggested that he originated from the Romans' province of Africa to the west of Cyrenaica. His inclusion in Acts chapter 13, verse 1 demonstrate the multiracial and multinational relationship of the Church of Antioch. Their concerning for missions was likely rooted in their ethnic diversity. You got to watch these books too when they're giving you thing. You got to read them with a fine-tooth comb. Remember, Paul and them were Israelites. The 12 disciples were Israelites. They all were black people. Jesus came to his own. He came to his own. Even though some of them rejected him, some did accept him. So Niger was referred to as a black man, right? This is a book, they call it the Thesaurus, the Roget's International Thesaurus, 3rd edition. This is a quote from Peter Mark Roget. He was an English physician and a philosophagist. So he's written, Peter was born on January 18th of 1775 in London, England, and he died on September 12th, 1869 in West Malvern, Worcester. He was an English physician and philologist, and I can't even say that word. Remembered for his thesaurus of English word and phrases. So I want to show you a quote from his book. Right? I want to show you a quote from his book. This is what he says in his book. Eskimos, right? It's the word Negro, a colored person, black, Amor, Jim Crow, slang, darky, Sambo, ebony, the image of God. Hello. You hear what this man got in his book? For Negro, the image of God. African Ethiopians, Swahili, Ethiopic, the colored man, man of colored, buck, Negro. But the strange things that he put, look at that. Negress color, woman, mommy, auntie. This is the word that we use. The word Pekini. We use that word too back in the islands. Negroids, mulatto, African, you know, Afro-African, or the same African-American that these people always use, these derogatory words that they throw on us. But the strange things that I brought this up for, listen what he says. The image of God. Why would he even say that? Negro, noun, mulatto, colored person. Negro or Negroid, colored person. So Simeon was referred to as Niger. It means black. It's the same word, Negro. It's the same word. The same word, Negro. So family, this is Black History, Part 2. According to the Bible, color. The ancient Israelites of Jerusalem were melanated people. The 12 tribes of Israel, they were melanated people. They were not white people. They were not white people. They were melanated people. We see from the Bible, even in the Old Testament, we see that Joseph was mistaken for an Egyptian. The Israelites that went to bury their father were all mistaken for Egyptians. We saw that Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian. We saw that Samson had dreadlocks. We saw that Absalom had dreadlocks. We saw that Jesus, we gave the description of the color of him, burnished bronze, like it was burned in a furnace. We see that Jesus was sent down into Egypt to hide from Herod. We know the Egyptians, them were black, melanated people. And if Jesus was white, there's no way he could have hid in Egypt amongst all these black, melanated people. So by Jesus going down there, Joseph, Mary, his mother, it was just another black family in Egypt. Another black family. We see Paul, who everybody liked to follow. We see Paul was mistaken also for an Egyptian. We see that the Israelites are also referred to, are you not as the Ethiopians unto me? Family, the Ethiopians, Ethiopia was one of the only country in Africa that was not colonized. So we know that God preserved these people to give the color, the hue, to refer to his people. Because now, in ancient time, in this time, we see that the people in Egypt, they are not the indigenous people. They are not the indigenous people of the land. We have, just like what is going on in America, just like what is going on in Israel, is the same thing going on in Egypt. We have squatters in the land, taking the land that don't belong to them and claiming it to be their own. I hope this was a blessing to the hearers. I hope that the hearers learned something from it. And always, family, always pick up your Bible. Don't rely on the pastors to lead and guide you. Read your book. That's the reason why you have it. Even me, test what I say with the scriptures, because the Bible tells you to test every spirit to see whether they're of God or not. A lot of people, they say, well, my pastor teach the Bible, but that's what they're saying. They never even read the Bible for themselves. Most of them, they don't read the Bible for themselves. They just listen to the pastor and take what he says. They take it for law. Especially in these times, family, you have to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. You cannot allow anyone to play with your salvation, family. You cannot allow anyone to play with your salvation, because that determines where you end up. If you end up in the kingdom of God or if you end up in the lake of fire. Don't allow anyone to play with your salvation. Stop following pastors who tell you that the Old Testament is done away with and you don't have to keep God's laws. These people have not your interest at heart. They don't care about you. They care about your pocketbook. Family, we are Israel, the Lord's vineyard. Let me say this and then we're going to read out, pray out. And Brother Moses, we're Israel, the Lord's vineyard. And we have Bible studies on Friday evenings via Zoom at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you don't have Zoom and you don't want to download Zoom, you can actually call in by phone, and the number is 786-635-1003, or you can dial 646-518-9805, or you can dial 646-558-8656. The meeting ID number is the phone number 407-493-1344, and the passcode is 54321. Again, we do this Bible studies every Friday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the Israel, the Lord's Vineyard phone number, if you want to get in contact with us, is 407-493-1344. Again, Israel, the Lord's Vineyard's contact number, if you want to get in contact with us, is 407-493-1344. Family, I hope this lesson was a blessing to the hearer. I know it's kind of lengthy, but remember, this is Black History Month, and I like to try to break down things, to the finest point where anyone can understand it. You know what I mean? And you don't want to come and listen to a whole lesson and go away and don't get nothing from the lesson. You want to be able to understand the lesson, see what it's trying to convey, see what it's trying to teach, what it's trying to bring forward, so you can know, and then it will entice you or encourage you to go and do research, family. Always do your research. Everything is right there for us, family. Nothing is hidden from us. You know, we have a lot of people that talks about conspiracy theorists, and that's part of the agenda. They want you to say it's conspiracy theory so you don't go and research. But they don't hide nothing from us. They put it right in front of our faces. Because they figure if they put it right in front of your faces, you're not going to really believe it. You're going to think it's conspiracy. No, family. These people are bold-faced. That's how Satan is. It's bold-faced. These people are wolves in sheep clothing. So you got to be wary of them. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day, Father, our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. In Jesus' precious name, we all say amen. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our redeemer. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading, the hearing, and the doing of his word. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Family, again, thank you. We encourage you to please like the video, and share, and please subscribe. Share it to your friends and family. And if I can ask you, please subscribe, that when we put out more contents, you will get a notification. Please like and share the video. And as always, is one love, man. Always one love. And we'll see you again in the part 3 of the history, Black history according to the Bible. Exploring Israelite heritage is going to be part 3. So look out for that next line, family, and just watch the series. You know what I mean? As I said, we try to break it down as simple as possible that y'all can understand. I thank you for your ears. I thank you for your presence. And again, family, we love you.